Ife and her children from Africa lived across the road from La Caride and her children from Mexico. Ife had a farm, and the only thing she grew was plantains. And La Caride had a farm, but she had chickens and eggs. And every morning, once they got their children out to school, they would wave at each other and smile big and go and take care of their farms. And while the children were at school, this is what they did. And the neighbors would come to Ife, and they would buy her plantains. In fact, they would not use any other plantains because Ife's were the best for making fried plantains. And so that is what she did. And La Caride's chickens made the best sopa pollo ever, and huevos rancheros. And so this is what the two of these women did every day. And when their children came back from school, they would make sure they were fed, and the children would go outside and play and learn each other's languages, and sometimes they shared their food. Well, one day, when the children were all at home, they decided to go down the street a little, and as they were playing in this big open field, they found this great big watermelon. And of course, they wanted to take it home where they could cut it open and share it, but it was too big for them to carry. So they went and got their parents. The two mothers came, of course, and they decided that if they all worked together, they could carry this big watermelon home. But even though they were working together, with the children doing the translating, they couldn't carry that watermelon. It was just too big.
And that's
So Ife's children went to get an African mpuka, and La Caride's children went to get a Mexican bolsa. And they both came back with these bags, and they handed them to the mothers. And each one tried to put this watermelon into the bags separately. The watermelon was much too heavy and too big. So they sat on the side of the road for a minute, trying to figure out what they were going to do. And the kids were really, really anxious because Ife's children knew that their mother was going to make African watermelon jam. And La Caride's children were looking forward to Mexican watermelon rind candy. And it was like, we've got to figure out something. After a while, Ife and La Caride stood up, they took the bags, sat one inside the other, they all worked together, picked up the watermelon, put it inside the bags. Ife carried one side, La Caride carried the other, and they took it back to their house. When they got to the homes, because they were right across the street from each other, they stopped in the middle of the road, cut the watermelon in half, and each family took their watermelon home. At the end of the day, they all gathered on the side of the road and shared the hot biscuits with the African watermelon jam, and they ate that Mexican watermelon rind candy, and it was just delicious. And the mothers couldn't talk to each other because they did not know each other's language. So the children were left to translate, which they were happy to do. And so, after the watermelon, they kept the seeds. And they planted these seeds. And these two families worked together to have these watermelon plants grow. And as they grew, they had the best watermelons in the village. And of course, the villagers wanted to buy them because, you know, ain't nothing better than cold watermelon on a hot summer day. And so, and so they sold their watermelon. They sold their watermelon rind candy, their watermelon jam with hot biscuits, and they opened a roadside cafe.
Yes, ma'am.
And in this cafe, they sold not only their candy, not only their jam and biscuits, they sold sopa pollo, they sold African stew, fufu, which is African bread, tortillas, hot biscuits, fried chicken, fried plantains, and the entire village was there. And within time, some of the villagers began to sell their desserts and their crafts in their cafe. And it became the meeting place for the entire village. Now this story came from part of my existence. I live across the street from a family who does not speak English. I do not speak Spanish. But when I had, before the gophers took over my yard, and I don't know if anyone else has ever had that happen, but I had collard greens, I had onions, I had tomatoes, and whenever I had this bumper crop, I would just walk across the street and share it with them. Well, the father worked at a Marie Callender's pie shop. And so I got the benefit. He would always, Thanksgiving and Christmas, he would always bring me pies. All you need is love. All you need is love. All